Good afternoon, everyone, and I hope I'm not eating into your lunch. I won't take much time, probably 15-20 minutes, but try to make it a little bit more interesting and informative about cybersecurity. So when we talk about, first, before that, my name is Vishal. I work for Palo Alto Networks, one of the #1 cybersecurity companies in the world. We we provide cybersecurity solutions. At the same time, we are known to be experts in threat intelligence and breach investigations, cybercrime investigations, and those kind of things. So I'm going to talk about something on those lines today. It's a little bit different topic altogether from what we have been hearing since morning. I think it's a great session, first half we had this morning. So when we talk about cyber threats, right? If you look at some of the statistics, I'm just talking about a couple of months back, or probably let's go and take 2022, end of 2022. India's healthcare was the topmost sector targeted by cyber criminals globally. We were #1. India's banking and finance system or sector was the second largest being targeted in Asia. We have lakhs and lakhs of cyber attacks every month, every day that have been detected by various agencies, by various cybersecurity organizations. Now, when we talk about these, right, how has this changed, right? How has this increased? I think since morning we all hear and we know about it, how the digital economy is flourishing. The attacks are towards a digital economy. There's a change out here, right? We talk about economy, we can underline the word economy, right? Because earlier I used to talk like, say, digital infrastructure. Now, when I say digital economy, the entire thing changes. The way we look at threats changes. So when we talk about threats, right, let's look at the landscape. How has the threat landscape changed over the past couple of years? When I talk about threats, right, I think it's time for us to redefine threats. So typically when we talk about cyber threats or we talk about threats, the first thing that you'll say, okay, is it a malware? Is it a ransomware? Is it some sort of a sabotage-based attack? Is it some sort of hacktivism, let's say political sort of a thing? Or is something like a new tool has come, GPT-based, which is like AI-based, and it's going to be just going and just targeting all the organizations or critical assets. When you talk about these, right, are these really the threats today? Well, I would say no, these are not the threats. These are merely just tools used by threat actors. So what are the threats we are really talking about? The threats that we are talking about are much larger, right? The threats we are talking about are much larger. We're talking about threats such as geopolitical tensions. We are talking about economic espionage. We are talking about proliferation of non-state actors. We are talking about terrorism, right? Now, each of these threat actors or these threats have a cyber angle to it. Cyber is one of the tools that is being used by threat actors today, right? There are many tools we see across, like some are like really weapons, and cyber is just one of the weapons that is being used. How do we protect against that? But then again, we need to first go by the definition, how we define threats. So instead of saying, do we have a protection against this malware? I would say, do we have a protection against a specific conflict that is going on our borders, okay, from a cyber perspective? That would change the way we look at cyber threats today, right? So, for example, we talk about things such as, and I'll talk about, get into details about a little bit. I don't have much time, but we'll try to touch on some of the things. For example, talk about, transnational crimes. When we say transnational crimes, it's associated with what? It's associated with drug peddling, associated with human trafficking, those kind of things. Why is a cyber angle to it? If you look at today, the United Nations ODC, the Office of Drug and Crime, they have categorized cybercrime as an evolving transnational crimes because these things now happen on the digital platforms. You have channels, you have underground forums where these things happen, payments are made through cryptocurrency, all those things happen. So the way we want to look at threats is a bit different, right? So let's talk about, let's say, geopolitical tensions. If you look at, we're talking about geopolitical tensions, let's look at some are active conflicts, some are really passive conflicts, right? Or let's say Cold Wars. So talk about our neighbors, talking about what's happening currently in the Middle East, Israel and Hamas. We're talking about Russia, Ukraine, all those things, right? When you look at the cyber perspective, what do they look at? What do they target? They would target critical assets of the nation, right? It could be anywhere in the nation. It could be a specific state. It could be in some other place, but it will target critical nations or critical infrastructures, critical assets. This could be power companies. We have seen this is happening, right, across the globe. It could be, we saw this after the Gulf War conflict, what happened at the Ladakh border where the power grid was targeted by the Chinese state actors, right? Those kind of things happen. Now, we're talking about water issues. We're talking about water agencies being targeted. Think of it, right? Typically, if we cut a water pipe, it's okay, we don't get water. But digitally, if I just hack into the system and manipulate the digital system, the water can be actually stopped for the entire city or the entire state. That's the level of damage a cyber threat can do today. Who are doing this, right? We're talking about 40 plus groups. Some are state actors, some are non-state actors, associated with government, some are not associated with government. 40 plus groups spread across 9 different countries and 3 different continents. These groups specifically targeting India's critical assets. So we are really talking about somebody, we are facing a human and not just a mere technology the other guy has. What is the intent? What is their motive, right? The intent is espionage. They want to know secrets, right? They want to sabotage in a cyber warfare. They want to sabotage a digital infrastructure, right? Or critical assets as such. They want to monitor again. I think this is something which is big because we see cyber crimes for money, right? Not only on the citizens, but we're also talking about organizations, ransomware, okay? Malware is deployed, files are encrypted. You can't access those files unless you get the decryption key from the attacker, and to get the decryption key, you have to pay a ransom. So people pay a ransom for that. So monetary gains, right? But then what are the tools that they use? So these are some of the tools. I just spoke about ransomware. Social engineering, we're talking about vulnerabilities. And with the geopolitical change, we're seeing insiders. So across the globe, wherever these conflicts are happening, we are seeing people being recruited and planted into organizations, government organizations, to steal internal secret, which is insider threat, which we're talking about, has been prevalent, I would say, a lot. So when we talk about cyber threats, we are not just focusing on that. We probably need to get a better perspective of what's happening across, right? So let's look at the other part. Non-state actors, right? Okay, governments are doing something, X government is targeting Y government, that's one. We talk about the non-state actors, right? I'll give some examples. When the war between Russia and Ukraine started, right? Couple of months later, right? There are 40, as of now, 40, and there are 40 plus now. 40 plus groups actually took sides of either nations. So this group called Conti, which is one of the most sophisticated group, they officially declared that, okay, we're going to be Russia. There were some other groups, anonymous, for example, they said, okay, we're going with Ukraine, those kind of things. This is a pattern that we are seeing even here when we're getting into these kind of situations, what's happening across the border and those kind of things. Not only with Russia, Ukraine, we're also talking about things such as what's happening currently, right? I don't want to get more details about it, but as of now, there are 80 plus groups which have taken sides, or probably which are actually fighting on behalf of some other, I would not say behalf of, but they're probably protesting or doing some sort of a damage to the other team as such. So if you look at it, I didn't talk about any malware. I didn't talk about anything else, because the way we need to look at cyber threats is more strategic, and than just saying, okay, I have an antivirus solution, let's deploy it. Again, all due respect to, we're also one of the vendors, but all due respect to that, that's a later part. Let's define the cybersecurity strategy first. How are we going to tackle these kind of threats that the world is facing today? Now, if you look at why cyber threats are increasing, because it's a business model. Cyber threats is a business model, which means that today's cyber attack as a service is sold. Anybody today, if you say today, let's say I want to target a particular organization, I don't have the skills, I'm not a hacker, I'm not a developer, I can go to a service provider. For example, there is something called as ransomware as a service. These, typically they have 3 entities. They have the developer, which has already developed a ransomware. It's tried and tested. It has been used in many organizations. There is an affiliate, which is basically the person like me who wants to go and say hack into a particular network. And there is an initial access broker, which gives me, okay, you want to go and compromise this organization, here are the vulnerabilities. This is how you can compromise. I have the username passwords. I have, these systems are not patched. Okay, go inside, plant this ransomware. When you get the ransom, pay me 30%. There's a 24/7 support that they have. There's a real-time dashboard to see where the attack is at which stage. It's just on your fingertips. So criminals are using these platforms to achieve their missions. Recently, we concluded an operation with Interpol, where this is another service which has been sold, which is phishing as a service. This service, we're talking about, you're getting ready-made phishing email templates, ready-made website templates, right? These guys know which user can be compromised in a specific organization with what sort of email, what sort of attachment. So this particular criminal that, the operation that we worked with Interpol, led to an arrest of a 21-year-old Indonesian person, which had, the database showed that they are compromised 70,000 organizations across the globe and around 43 different countries. That's the level of sophistication, that's the level of, I would say sophistication that cyber threats are looking today, right? The way we are looking at things today. It's no longer just something you get when you go and browse the web, you get something you clean with antivirus. It's a lot of things which is happening across. Now, we're talking about financial frauds. You have fraud as a service. Okay? Now all these services are heavily advertised on the dark web. So fraud as a service. So typically when these identities are stolen, say sometimes we say, okay, there is the cyber attack, so many passport numbers went, so many IDs, civilian IDs went, right? What do these criminals do with these IDs? Some of them sell it on the dark web and some other party purchases it. Some of them actually use it. For example, creating this kind of synthetic IDs accounts, right? Which means that, okay, the identity is real, but the person who is creating it is a false person. They take loans on that person's name. This guy comes and says, I didn't take this loan. I don't know about this transaction. So you can, when I say attackers are using these services today to go and achieve their mission. They don't need infrastructures. They don't need developers. They don't need any programmers. It's all readily available. As far as you can pay them these groups money, they're gonna you can achieve your mission as such. But let's say you want to say, okay, I want to do it myself, but let me use a tool. So for example, there's something called as Fraud GPT. So since the advent of Chat GPT, now there's Fraud GPT. What all it can do for you? It can write malicious code for you. It can write undetectable malware for you. It can actually go and write scam letters, whatever. Like it can help you code and how to hack into networks as such. You'll say, okay, for example, I have a specific organization I want to target. Give me a code which will impersonate that same web page. It will just give you. The membership starts from something like $200 and it goes up like $1,700, $1,800 or something like that. You subscribe, you get all these services today. So that's where cyber is going today. It's no longer just what we used to be a couple of years back. So how do we go about defending against these threats, right? The first and foremost thing is, again, redefining threats, right? We're really talking about, we are not going and actually protecting us from a machine. We are going in and actually protecting against a human, which is a result of some sort of a conflict, some sort of a crime. That's where cyber attack comes into play. Second, we're talking about developing a breach mindset. That's a very important element because we all want our networks to be secure, our organization to be secure from cyber attacks, right? But the hard truth is breaches are inevitable. What we need to understand is, okay, it's not about which sort of technology you're putting. All the technologies are good, I would say. Everywhere is great technology. But it could be a human error. Some administrator opened up something. Something happened. Somebody clicked on something and the attacker is in your network. So having that mindset, okay, I will be breached somebody, but if I get breached, how quickly can I recover? How can I minimize the business impact? That's something which are two things we need to formulate in our cybersecurity strategy. Third, we're talking about having a threat-centric approach. When it's a threat-centric approach, many times we look at things from a technology standpoint. This is the technology we need to deploy. This is the best technology. But why don't we change our perspective and say, this is how an ex-nation state or an ex-attacker sees my organization's network as? How does my network look from the outside? How does my network look from the inside? How does my network look from the partner organization? Once we have this kind of a thing, then understanding the adversary, who can primarily target me? If they can target me, what are their capabilities? What is their intent? And then how can I prepare against that? This is what is the third thing that we need to have as part of cybersecurity strategy. And finally, collaboration. I think this is the biggest one because many a times everybody has a great solution. We all have great solutions, but then something happens in one place, the other thing the other agency doesn't know. So the collaboration of if X agency is breached, does the Y agency know about it? If not, because it could have been, the threat could have been emerged from Y to X as such. So that collaboration of multiple teams, people talking to each other is important. So how can we help you? Again, we help you with, again, the best technology, be it on your network, be it on the cloud, be it on in your security operations. But again, all this purely backed by intelligence. And when I say intelligence, we're talking about intelligence where we come in from at least 250 plus threat researchers with our company. We're talking about more than 1,000 breach investigations every year. And our collaboration with intelligence agencies, more than 200 across the globe. With Interpol, Europol, NATO, we work very closely with a lot of other places, agencies we work across, where we share intelligence bidirectionally with each other and then help disseminate that to our clients as such. So, summary, cyber threat landscape is changing. We're talking about identifying the real threats, asking questions not about how we protect against this malware, but how does this conflict affect me from a cyber perspective, and then formulating a strategy on the 4 pillars which I just said. With that, thank you very much.